Hey guys, what's up? It's Sanin Senpai posting my second video. Basically, this is how I would become a software engineer in 2026 and step by step. If I had to step over with zero experience, here's kind of what exactly I would do, or if you have no degree, kind of like the fastest path to getting to it with someone with over 8 years um, in the field overall, 10 years plus coding. I do have a CS degree, but this is kind of where I would start off. Pretty much the problem is most software engineers that are starting or have been going and kind of get stuck in limbo. They get stuck in that tutorial hell with YouTube where they just follow how to learn Python, how to learn Java, how to do JavaScript, or they learn random things with no specific plan at hand. So another major issue is kind of they learn in the wrong order of how to learn how to develop with not the lack of effort, but they're just learning in the wrong order. So my biggest thing that I would say is step one is pick a path. Don't try to learn everything at one time. Don't try to learn front end and back end and databases and AI technologies all at one time. Pick one and kind of really hamper down in it. So the three choices that you obviously have are front end, back end, and full stack. To go back on a full stack, it kind of is learning all the things at once. So I don't think that's the best place to start, but definitely picking front end or back end is kind of where I would go first. For example, like for me, my example stack would be learning the Microsoft tech stack. So starting off on the back end is kind of where I would start. I really like .NET framework and the .NET Core, .NET basically for C Sharp. So I would start off learn C Sharp and then learn the framework with it that goes hand in hand, .NET, and then I would move on to front end. So I would get those technologies together hand in hand that work with it. Or if you want to learn front end, you can go start learn JavaScript and Node. That's kind of like the back end a lot of the times, and React and how those kind of work together. So you can really start learning how to put things forward, but learning like JavaScript and then learning that framework above it. For example, you can learn Angular or React or Vue.js. Those are pretty much the big ones, and kind of just stick with those and just stick with that front end and really mastering that skill set or that back end and really mastering that skill set. Don't try to learn everything at one time. And basically, only really, I think the next thing is a lot of people kind of hamper and push into random things that don't really matter as a fundamental. The things that really matter still to this day, and they have for 10, 20 years, is you really just need to stick with what matters, the fundamentals. So focusing on one programming language and that framework that goes with that, you know what I mean? So like for me, C Sharp and .NET, those go hand in hand. Or if you're Java and Spring Boot, like those go hand in hand. So just sticking to that, learning APIs. So APIs are basically how data is transferred around the internet. Everything uses it, and how that programming language is utilizing it. So APIs, you have your what put, post, get, those type things, those APIs, and how it's sending data across and how those are being used by other people. That's like a really good way of how to set it up with the framework and those things. So step one is pick one path. Step two is really what matters. So the things that matter are the program languages, APIs, like we talked about, and databases. So databases is another one. You kind of have to choose what kind of goes with what works really well sometimes with program languages. So for example, C Sharp and .NET, that falls under the Microsoft type area. So you can use SQL Server. Lots of people use SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server. Learning that, how those are working. It's a relationship database, so it like kind of works in that way. There's other types of databases, but whatever you picked in your path, you kind of just have to branch off into that later. So those are three things. You got one programming language, API, database. And now a very fundamental thing that a lot of people kind of just skip over is Git. So Git is super important. It's a merging strategy in how we handle code and branching and all that stuff. Just learn the basics of how Git works. Push, pull, fetch, like those basic things of Git are super important for most developers, and lots of junior developers don't know how that works, but every professional developer uses it on a day-to-day basis. How we handle branching strategies and those things with Git, how we handle merge conflicts and those. So a merge conflict is when someone else is developing, you're developing in the same area. How those branches can conflict with one another. So they're coding something, you're coding a different thing, and they're conflicting with it. And that's a problem because you can't merge them together easily. That's a major headache. So basically, you kind of just want to skip over theory nowadays. Theory is everywhere, but you just want that fundamentals, which is one programming language, an API, a database, and Git. Don't continue to be stuck in all the tutorials and all the courses and everything. So your goal here is to build, not memorize, right? You just want to build things over and over and over and over again and just keep messing up and building up and dealing with these problems on a day-to-day basis as you get better. Don't memorize things. You're not going to memorize. You want to build and learn how to get past things. So step one is I would pick one path. Step two, learn only what matters, the fundamentals, which are one programming language that you want to learn, APIs, databases, and Git. That's a great way to go right away. Step three is build real projects. So tutorials, they're good to follow along, but contrary, they don't count. They don't count. You build something, but you're not learning. Don't rely on tutorials to be something that you built. You may have gone through the motions, but you didn't learn anything from it. Go through and just pick whatever you want to build and just build it. Just stick to it and build it start to finish, right? So that's really the biggest thing. You only really need, I would say, before you start putting yourself out there, is 2 to 3 real projects, things that fully are flushed out. They may have some bugs here and there, but as long as they're flushed out, it's okay and working, right? So some here's ideas basically for a software engineer that's kind of starting a full CRUD application. So what CRUD means is it creates, reads, updates, and deletes data. So that kind of goes back to your APIs or the fundamentals. That'll teach you how data is transferred in those ways, how we're creating data, how we're like it's getting data and reading it, how we're updating data, and if we need to delete data, we're going to delete it. That's pretty much every way of how we handle data on a software engineer side. A super good one is applications with authentication. So like a login and a sign up. If you can send a email, right? So email or dealing with like OAuth 2.0 tokens and those type of things, those are pretty advanced. But if you can do that, that's something that a developer would do on a day-to-day basis. That would be a project that you would probably be handed, is those type of authentications. Or API in a database project is another good idea. If you want how APIs can reenact with like databases, like, oh, we're pulling this, and it'll teach you how to write queries and stuff like that for those databases that you chose earlier that you want to deal with, right? So pretty much how your application, those API calls, pull data or update data. So that kind of goes into that CRUD application. Um, and just make it slightly unique, man. Just put the time in, get all the bells and whistles kind of rolling and working, and just put it to you as a developer, how your signature touch, what you are like proud about, right? It can be minimalistic, it can be maximalistic, it can be whatever you want. Um, because the main thing is with that is if it looks like everybody else's project, it's not going to stand out. So like if you sit here and you can tell me, and if I ask you questions as an interviewer, and you don't really know, we're gonna see that, right? But if you know and you put your TLC and your blood, sweat, and tears into that application or that website or whatever, you're going to be proud of it and it'll stand out. So that gives you that standout ability just a little bit. So step one is I would pick one path. Step two, learn only what matters truly, which are one program language, API, databases, and Git. Step three is build real projects. Don't do tutorials, build your project. Step four is make yourself hireable. Tons of people are super skilled, but like they're just not very hireable. And what that means is like they don't have a clean GitHub. They have messy repos everywhere. I was one that was like that when I first started. I had public repos everywhere of unfinished projects or projects I'm starting. You should only have two or three projects that you're ready to show off and you know about. Have those out. Have those solid projects out there, public, that you can talk about and whip up and pull up, right? Um, Another thing is just have a simple, clear resume. Don't go to ChatGPT. Don't go do this and that. You can take those informations that it's handing you, but like we can tell when I start reading these things on and you can't answer those things, um, you can tell, like an interviewer can tell. These are things that you should really just have a super simple, clear resume that you wrote, that you worked on, that you reviewed, that you did these things, that you actually did. Um, and then just show what you built and impact that it's had. Like that's a huge thing that people always, um, the more people that you interview is less people can tell you the impact that your thing has said. So like say you have been a developer or the impact that you've had with that project that you're proud of, right? How it's impacted you, right? What it's taught you. If you're a beginner developer, what it's brought and what it's expanded from you. And I think things that here's kind of controversial take. These are completely optional in my opinion. LinkedIn and networking and referrals. These are two of the biggest time sinks that I think as a developer that you can waste in job searching, and you're not really making yourself super hireable all the time. Is if you had to have one, LinkedIn is it. Networking and referrals is kind of, I think networking is the most overharped on thing, which is kind of weird. But referrals, if you know someone, that's the best, right? That's just by chance. Um, so, step five is you kind of have to apply smart, right? Don't just go and spam 200 applications a day. Sometimes I did that and it got me nowhere, right? And it's really going to burn you out. Like I said, you have to be consistent about these things. Like in my previous video, I would say, I think I said do like 5 a day, not 100 a day. Be very apply to jobs that you kind of actually match. So that programming language that you chose, say it be Java or C Sharp or Python, whatever, apply to those jobs because that's actually really what's lined up to your skill set now that you're at this step five level, right? Um, and kind of slightly, I know this is a hard one, but you really do have to slightly tailor your resume to get past those automated bots that kind of scan your resume and everything. You have to tailor it to that. So you have to tailor some skill sets or keywords to theirs and what they're trying to say. Like it's kind of annoying, but you kind of have to do it nowadays, unfortunately. If not, your resume will just be thrown in the trash. Not even just by AHR, like HR won't even see it. So just tailor your resume, use those keywords that you find, technologies, what they're looking for, um, you know, the specific things that make you super hireable. Let's see. Look at smaller companies too. So for me, I used to always look at, huge Fortune 100 companies in the United States to apply to. But once I started opening my boundaries, I started getting tons of recruiters to hit me up or people actually applying to me. Look at smaller companies. So, there's tons of people that need help. So API integration type companies, banking companies, small credit unions, those type of places do hire only a handful of developers, but a lot of the time those jobs sit empty for a very long time. So like currently we have two roles that were open for almost a year where I work. So That's just good things to do. So um, the other thing is too is like I was kind of speaking on earlier is 10 good applications will always beat 200, 300 random ones that you're just kind of throwing out there, easy applying. You're kind of being lazy about it. At the end of the day, you're the only one that's reliable to your bad strategy. You have to apply with a strategy. You have to do certain things. And it's kind of the next thing is it's like kind of a reality check, right? Is this takes time. Like if you want to become a software developer, it's going to take months. It may take you years. It took me over a year to land my first job. It's not going to take weeks. It's very hard. You need a job. If you need a job, you got to go work. That's cool. Come back home, start doing more development work, start, keep applying. If you're for real about it, you will be a software engineer at the end of the day. The only one stopping you is you. It's a super competitive field, super, super competitive. As far as just in the United States, where it's just super competitive. Walking out from college, if you're college graduate and applying and starting, even at a senior level like I am, it's still super hard and competitive. Like I still have to fight for my interviews. I still have to fight for my things that I thought were going to be way easier a couple years ago. It's very competitive. Um, and that's the thing is most people just give up. Most people just quit. If you're not about it, you're not going to get it. That's what it is at the end of the day. The roles are there. There's less of them, but they will hire you if you are hireable. You have to really put all the blame on yourself at the end of the day if you give up. It's all on you, right? It's you versus everyone else to get certain roles. That's the biggest thing. So if you stay consistent, you'll stand out. Like if you are consistent with your craft, you will stand out. If you are consistent with the steps, that's how you'll become a software engineer in today's society. So I don't know. If you guys want, I can kind of break this into like a week by week plan later in my next video if you want. I'll also talk about what the job is really like if you guys want. But yeah, subscribe if you want more real advice. Just let me know.